We're recording. All right, everyone. Hope everyone had a great day today. Welcome back to Unfiltered King podcast. It's the podcast, man, where men and women talk to each other instead of at each other. And so, hope everybody had a great day, man. We have another great and phenomenal show waiting for you guys, man. I really think this is going to be a great conversation. If you guys give us a few moments, man, take time, man, to go out there on our social media platforms, on Facebook, on Instagram, on TikTok, and definitely on YouTube, and join us, man. Click that follow button, click that subscribe button, man. If you guys take a few moments while we kind of get situated here and do that, man, that definitely will allow us to have the following kind of show the following we have. And if you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to hit us on any social media that we're on for our show ideas, comments about content that you may see. Man, we just want to hear from you. And so with that being said, man, let me go around and do some quick introductions. I got my co-host Frankie in the house. Frankie, you want to say what's up to the people?
What's going on, good people? What's going on? Let's have a great show today.
All right. And then we have our guest, man. You could call the man of the hour, so to speak, man. I'll go ahead and let him introduce himself briefly, but we'll definitely be learning more about him. Dr. Gregory Shirley, man, how are you doing, man? We're excited to have you to join us.
Man, I am excited to be here. It's like homecoming all over again. It's like we back on the
yard. Already. Yeah.
We're gonna put the unfiltered in the podcast today.
Right.
That's it, baby.
Right, man. You do got 3 HBCU members, man. Of course, you have the beginning of our Phi Fraternity Incorporated with Greg and I. We share the same fraternity. Then you also have Frankie, who's a member of Omega Psi Phi Zulu chapter of Omega Psi Phi. And so you got the beginning and the end, man. And so
that's right.
We can be the authoritatives on this topic right here and kind of start it and end it, hopefully on a happy note. But with that being said and done, man, we have a great show with you guys. We thought it was one that was long overdue, right? We definitely will have conversation where we'll have conversation between men and women and some of the topics that you hear out there where we're listening to each other more. But in the meantime, a lot of our female guests, they having conflicts with their schedule. So we definitely will be doing it in the future, but we thought we might take some time, man, to kind of revisit the conversation that we just have amongst ourselves as men, and more important, as Black men, and create those spaces where we do the same thing, where there may be polarizing topics that we speak of, that we say we know of, but do we allow intellectual conversation to be had? And so tonight, we feel that it's very purposeful that we term our episode tonight a candid conversation between a member of the LGBTQ community and UKP. And so if you notice within a conversation, it's not pre-led, right? Like you're having a conversation amongst people that just so happen to be connected to these organizations. And so I know we kind of laughed and joked before we came on the air. You know, it's almost like alphas and omegas is on this podcast, and neither one of us lean it so that the conversation can be almost kind of like rehearsed. We just want to have a candid conversation, man, and have some questions, some dialogue, and have some discovery, right? But more important, we want to kind of normalize that. So we hope that you guys learn something from this conversation. We hope you guys take the model of this conversation and have it in your own communities. So with that being said and done, man, we're definitely looking forward to having a powerful here tonight. Before we get started, man, we always want to check on each other. So I'm going to throw it to my boy, Frankie. Let him kind of, do his little piece right quick, man. Like we say, man, this is very unfiltered, man. We care about each other. We don't just kind of jump on here just to, between 45 minutes or an hour, man. We actually dialogue and hold each other accountable. So we do have a part where we kind of check in with each other. And so for that, I'll turn it over to Frank.
What's going on, man? You know the vibes. You know what time it is. It's time to get it off your chest. It's time to release. Whether it's good energy, bad energy, good news, bad news, get it off your chest. This is the vent. So As always, right on, right on. As always, I kick it off, man. So I'm gonna say I'm about at a 4, man. Had a long day at work, man. Hot. Had to go in early. So 7 to 7. That's how my day went. So little light rain, still hot. Then after it rained, it got the humidity, and that heat is a whole another story. And then it's Advo day, man. So it was just a bum of a day for me. So that's why I'm at a 4, man. Tough. And that's why I was telling Los. Unfortunately, we ain't got Los with us because Spectrum. And I don't like Spectrum because Spectrum sends out a lot of fucking ads. So I get sick of delivering. Man, yeah. Don't even come knocking at my door. I don't even want it. I'm fine with AT&T.
I got AT&T. So yeah, it works.
Hey, good internet, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. But that's my day. We gonna throw it to Dr. Greg Shirley, man. What's on your mind? Get it off your chest.
You know, brother, and I'm glad that you brought that up.
Oh, and what level are you at? 10 being a good day to the bottom 1 being a bad day. So in between, come see, come saw, all that good stuff.
You know what? I'm gonna be real. I think I'm at like a 7 or an 8.
Cool.
It's been a good day. The last week and a half of work has been hectic. Knowing that we got Memorial Day coming up. So
yeah.
Shit, I took Friday off. We got Monday off. I took Tuesday off.
Hey.
I'm gonna kick it down to Houston. I mean, if there's any Houston left due to the tornadoes, but we gonna see.
Yeah.
But a lot of, and not to bring it down or anything like that. But James and I were talking about this. Like, it's been a month since I've lost my father. He transitioned on April 16th, and so just embracing that next step in life as being an orphaned adult, because now both my parents have transitioned. Yeah. And now I'm the elder. They are the ancestors. However, it's one of those things where having conversations and going through new normals, it's the stage of life. Yeah. And so today it just really kind of hit me that I'm actually doing okay. Now, if you would have asked me last week, if you asked me 2 days from now, I don't know. Yeah. However, knowing that this is going to be a common denominator that we all experience, just wanting to make sure that I embrace that and be very transparent about that. However, today today was a good day.
Already. That's good. That's good. Jay, what's on your mind, baby? Vent to the crew.
Well, I first want to say, man, we'll definitely keep you in our prayers, Greg. Losing my father in 2019, and I can tell you in 2024, it definitely feels like a yesterday experience, or it can be that morning experience. And so some of the best advice gave me is just that word transition. Just keep transitioning. Most people tell you find a new normal. Most people tell you to home. Whatever that transition looks like, whether recalling the normality that was, or if that means arriving at a new normality, whatever it looks like to you, just keep transitioning, man. I think that's one of those things. You don't have to have a correct answer in any moment in time, right? So we'll definitely keep you in our prayers, man. Man, I feel like the venting of Frankie, you needed it more than anybody.
Listen, let's make those face for you, Frankie. I mean,
I nominated him, and I'm gonna go first.
It was a rough day. It was a rough day.
I'm like, okay. I didn't even hear his number. He just went in. I was just like, you painted a picture.
It was a 4. It was a 4. It was a 4.
Hey, okay.
A solid bad 4.
Mine went that fast.
Funky 4. But and we gonna go. It was a funky 4. We gonna go with the friend.
You know what? This is a safe space. I'm not gonna say anything because I'm a guest. So
Oh man,
I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy to be here.
You're a guest to this podcast, but you're not a guest to the house.
Oh, I'm not.
That's it.
You know what? Freddie don't know what the house is. We know what the house is.
That part.
God. Jay, you gonna bet, man.
Okay, let's move on.
Bars.
Hey,
Bars.
We don't want no one. Hey, we don't want no one.
Y'all gonna stop jumping me.
Move forward.
Let me wipe my camera.
Oh my
wrong with your
goodness.
camera, brother, unless you got Spectrum Internet. You got Spectrum Internet?
Squint, let me
You got
squint.
Spectrum Internet,
You
that's
know
why.
what?
You got Spectrum. That's why.
I ain't got Spectrum.
My day was a 9, but I think it just went to a 10, man. That was beautiful, man. But no, I would say a 9. To me, I think you can never be perfect. That's why I reserve 10s and 1s. Is all bad if you're not hearing in 10s at first. So I would say a 9, man. I'm very encouraged that I picked up my first client, man.
Right on.
Paid also. Yeah. That's huge, and I say that very humbly because I believe God will make room for your gifts. I really do believe that. But more importantly, when you can just operate in your gifts, man, like anybody who have found their gifts, you realize that's a next level or out of body experience. When they say if you could do it, would you do it for free? When you have an opportunity to do that, man, that's exciting. And then the fact of just helping other people, man. When you look in the world, we talked offline about, some of just the crazy things that's going on in the world. One pop up, girl pop up, that'll pop up. It's like when you can just say, okay, I can help this one person right here. I might not can hug the world, but I think that brings me just joy. So I'm very thankful, very humble from that, and I'm excited looking forward to start working with her. So that's definitely exciting for me. Again, I hate that our brother and our fellow king Carlos couldn't join us. He was having some technical issues. I hope and pray that if he gets it situated, he can join us. But we'll carry on, man. I'll try to own the piece that he usually does, which is called "What's Happening." We kind of like to talk about what's going on in our community, and unfortunately, this one is not popular, right? It's really hard. We've already made the decision that we will have a full podcast devoted to this topic because I just think us as Black men, we have to say something about it, right? And that's the unfortunate situation with Sean Combs and Cassie Ventura going through. If you've been up under a rock, of course, a video came out from 2016 where, with all intents and purposes, Sean Combs was just he was a monster. He was a monster. We won't go into detail about it. We won't be showing the video. We won't be showing the video even when we do the episode. But I think there is so much of a conversation that need to be had within our community. And I'm looking forward to having that conversation. But, of course, that's what's happening now. Of course, everyone has their thoughts, those who didn't believe her, right? Now you have to retract. You even have some famous people who coming out and said, hey, they're retracting their statement, which I think is fair, fellas, because when you reserve the right to make judgment until the facts come out. Now, when the facts come out and you still hold that opinion, then I think we're dealing with something else. And of course, you have those who are still his fans. Sean Combs is a hip hop icon, and then you have those who more like me, man. It's like, for the sake of this podcast, I know we're unfiltered, but we try not to say something. Put him up under the table. But the interesting dynamic is that, unfortunately, statute of limitations has passed in California, so he can't be charged for it. But then there are other charges where they can come around and do that. But when it's all said and done, I want to say this and move on, man, because we have a great show for you guys tonight. Let's make sure our prayers, our words, and conversations are in the right place. Cassie Ventura is a human being. She's a woman. She did not deserve that. I don't think you treat an animal like that. And my hope and prayer is that even though this is in the past, whatever trauma triggers her healing process, that this may have interrupted, that she may find peace with her newfound husband, man, and continue to get the healing and help that she needed. So I'll leave it there. And if you guys have anything that you want to share on what's happening now about that topic, I'll allow you guys kind of say your piece and we'll move on. I mean, that's my piece.
I just say from the perspective of, the conversation we're having this evening, I think there's so many people, particularly, and I'm just call it because it's unscripted, cisgender heterosexual black men who are at times, not all, but some, that are very quick to default to their factory settings of being cisgender heterosexual black men because that's all they've operated in, to victim blame or victim shame simply because they are looking at it from a lens of privilege. You're heterosexual and you're a man.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and James, you and I have talked about this. We'll talk about it tonight. Discrimination is discrimination. And so you being discriminated against as a black man in America or a black man in the South, or being a dark-skinned black man versus a light-skinned black man, because I think I'm a little bit lighter than y'all, but not by much. Like, to a certain extent, my complexion is my protection. The same thing applies to the fact that all three of us have functioning penises, and we all identify as cisgender men. And so there's a safety and a space in that we can occupy, and we lean into that, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally. And therefore, when we see individuals who don't look like us, it's very easy for us to cast judgment on those people. However, James, as you mentioned in your point, at the end of the day, we're all human. As we will talk about this evening, we all know what discrimination looks like, whether it be because we're African American, because we're black men in the South, because we are this, because we are that. And so I think for a lot of people, they really need to lean back and look at where are the similarities in that bias and that discrimination that exists before we go on social media and go to the shade room and Instagram and TikTok and do all these think pieces without actually thinking.
Yeah.
Real talk.
And
real talk.
We were talking offline, and Frank, I haven't forgotten about you, but I just wish we became emotionally intelligent enough to be able to have a conversation without thinking we have to agree with it, but leaving space to understand. And I would read a text from my homegirl. She's a member of Alpha Kappa Alpha, and I don't think she'll mind, but just to be PC, I don't want to, read it. But she was making the sentiments that although we don't have to agree, we do have to understand each other better because we're all human. And I think that is the basis of this foundation. It should not be when we hear a term or hear a topic or hear a label or hear a set of letters or hear anything that's different than my norm and my belief that we throw it away, right? Greg and I, we've been knowing each other for 20 years. 20 years is a lot to throw away for anything, right? So we have to give ourselves space, I guess, to expound and learn more without treating it like a stain. Frankie, you're going to get on me if I understand Omega Psi Phi. If I understand Omega Psi Phi as an alpha, that's going to get on me, and that's going to mess up mine. No, it won't. It'll make me a member Alpha that knows a little bit more about other organizations. And so what we're hoping to do, and we hope to do, is capture that normality so we can have a candid conversation. And so we definitely look forward to getting to that conversation. But before we move forward, as I promised, I wanted to see if Frankie had anything to say on the what's happening topic of Sean Combs and Cassie Ventura.
Yeah. Man, it's rough, man. And I got I want to say 2 points if I can remember a second, but I know the first one is we kind of dealt with this, especially fraternity wise, with Bill Cosby. And then you see I'm a big Diddy fan, man. Big Diddy fan. So it's like it sucks seeing a guy you look up to go through this type of ordeal, and it's even worse because you see kind of nobody believed Cassie or to that extent. And coming from like the male perspective, you always want to, especially a black male perspective, you all like, man, come on, man. They always trying to tear us down, you know, whether you have your conspiracy theories or whatever you have, you know what I'm saying? But it just hurts. Now, it's like one of those things, man. I think I was watching, I forgot the movie, man, but it was Jamie Foxx and Tommy Lee Jones. And the one lawyer, man, his grandfather was a Klansman. And like they said, they looked at him like, hey, you gonna speak? And he's like, man, what you want me to do? That's my that's my granddad. Like I mean, I know he did some fucked up things, but I can't denounce him. You know what I'm saying? So it kind of like it's one of those things. Like it's people out here with family members that do certain stuff, and to Greg's extent, social media is wild to me, man, because you're able to look at something and just go straight in without thinking like, well, what? Well, shoot, kinfolk locked up on the same stuff now, and I ain't gonna disown him. I ain't gonna say throw him under jail or this, that, and the other. Now, some people may feel that way if that certain crime happens in their family. They might say, yeah, throw my brother under the jail, throw my cousin. But some be like, man, God, it's one of those things where you just in disbelief. And
I think, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, man.
No, I think that's a good segue for our topic, right? I think too often, knowingly or unknowingly, we don't want to admit that we're dealing with our emotions instead of the truth.
Mm-hmm.
It is unfortunate that a video has to come out, and I'm challenged. I'm gonna segue from this. 8 years later, to value the truth, and unfortunate to your point, some people did put their emotions. Oh, who Diddy is and what she is and what, but the truth should come before our emotions, right? And even like right now, most people are talking about him because he's the quote unquote unfortunate bigger name. The sad reality, we have a victim here, right?
Yeah.
If that doesn't change, I would say love over loyalty. If you're loyal to a person, just like the king soldiers, the king soldier didn't care what he was right or wrong. We're just gonna ride or die with you. And too often we build real relationships on that ideology, and that is horrible. True love say, Greg, if you're wrong, brother. I got, hey, my beloved frat brother, you're wrong. Hey, Frankie, my Masonic brother, you my cable, so I love you to death. Frankie, you're wrong, brother. Yeah. And hey, you got to reciprocate that. You're gonna have to fix that, brother, right? Because if we value this right here, I would first want you to do the same thing with me. And number two, we always will be standing on truth, right? Not feelings. Right. You know, and so I want to be, yeah, and that's very sensitive topic to me because my family that has been through that, and so to me, I want to unequivocally say that Unfiltered Kings podcast is very sensitive to that. By no means will that ever be justified on our platform, no matter what species, who we believe in, and things of that sort. Wrong is wrong. And when there's wrong that's clear like that, then to me, the next step is accountability. I don't care what you've done, who you are, what status you have. It's been shown that you're clearly wrong. And even in that manner, man, it's like the next step is just accountability, right?
Yeah.
We're not a court system and all of that. And so we'll let that stay. You know, like you say, we won't be social media and try to who we hang with and all that. Okay, well, how we know? But for that, like I said, our prayers go out to Cassie Ventura. Goes out to her husband. Man, her husband trying to carry her. What were they in they walk in her healing process? And now, you know, you're thrown on the screen again and kind of have to relive it again. So definitely our thoughts and prayers here at UKP will be with them. But needless to say, man, we have a great conversation for you guys tonight, a candid conversation between a member of the LGBTQ community and UKP. Like I said, we wanted to create a space an unfiltered space, one that's not manipulated, one that's not pre-led, and kind of just have a conversation, man, about the interaction of two communities, I guess you could actually say. And with that being said, man, I want to kind of turn it over, and I thank you again, Dr. Shirley, being here. I know you as Greg, man, but I definitely will give you that respect. It was well worked, and you worked on it. But I will definitely defer now and allow you to kind of usher us into this conversation. We definitely have questions and things of that sort. But one thing we did not want to do, audience, we didn't want this scripted. We didn't want this to be, oh, we have questions from a heterosexual mind frame that we got from you and you. We wanted to have a conversation as three men, whatever our fate, whatever organization, whatever our lifestyle is, and let's arrive at a place to understand a part of our lives that we may live differently on, and see if we can better understand and, more importantly, better coexist around each other without some of the hate and vitriol and misunderstanding that we find prevalent in our society. So with that being said, Greg, I'll turn it over to you, man, and we'll go from there, man.
All right, brother. Well, I appreciate it. Well, I will let you all know that, James hit me up a couple of weeks ago, maybe like 2 weeks, and, text me and called me about this. And to be honest with you, it was something that took me aback. I was shocked because for me, and I will be utilizing I statements throughout a lot of this conversation. A lot of it will be generalized. However, much of it will be personalized in that I always see myself operating in a different silo, in a different space than heterosexual men. And so you heard me talk about earlier, cisgender heterosexual men. For short terminology, I refer to it as cishet because it's just easier and it flows off. However, because the three of us, and Carlos being here as well, we all identify as being cisgender. So we all identify as the gender we were born as. So I will not lean into that as much as I lean into the heterosexual versus the queer space.
Okay.
However, it shocked me because I'm like, in my world, in my queer gay world, because there's a difference between being queer and being gay, and we can talk about that a little bit later. We see it as a very much, in many cases, y'all versus us.
Greg, I don't want to interrupt you.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to interrupt you, but could you explain quickly, like an elevator pitch, because I think that will give context to what you're about to say.
Right. Okay, cool. So to be queer is to be under the umbrella of the LGBTQ, in my opinion, persona, or as some people like to say, I like to say it myself because it's funny to me, Alphabet Mafia. But to be queer, and queer, I can remember when my father first heard my twin brother and I use the word queer, he was like, "No, man, y'all not queer. Y'all not queer. Y'all gay. Y'all gay." And we're like, well, Dad, it's kind of like us as Black people owning nigga and people telling us we shouldn't say nigga, but we say nigga. It's like us taking the power back in that word. And so when someone calls me queer, I'm like, okay, well, thank you. Yes, I am. I'm glad that when I walk out the house, I'm showing you I'm queer as fuck because that was the point. So I'm doing my job. Now, gay can be associated with, I think, a lot of the stereotypes that the heterosexual, or as I like to call it, and we talked about this last week, so I'm gonna use James's new favorite word
right here. James' favorite word.
James, you know the word I'm about to use. You want to say it or you want me to say it? You want to say it? You want me to say it?
Go ahead, John. Go ahead. God damn.
The breeder community.
Okay.
The breeder community sees gay. And so what gay means in the definition of what we in the queer community see is, oh, you all see the pride events and you see the rainbow flags and you see the commercialism.
Yeah.
However, the same commercialism that you all see during Pride Month, that some of you, once again, not all of you, that some of you criticize and you have vitriol towards. White people have that same thing towards Black History Month. Men have that same thing towards Women's History Month. People who are not a part of the AAPI community have that towards AAPI month or Hispanic Heritage Month. And so it's that, once again, James, as you mentioned, that lens of, I'm not trying to have a conversation with you. I'm going to stay in my walls and I'm going to stay in my silo, and I'm not going to understand the slight differences that exist within these communities. Although every month that I just named, whether it's African Black History Month, Asian American Pacific Islander Month, Hispanic Heritage Month, Women's History Month, Pride Month, etc., we all know what discrimination looks like, which is why we need and we have these months.
Yeah.
And so from a perspective of looking at it from that lens, when, James first reached out to me, I'm like, oh, well, it's a very much, once again, us versus you all, because so many individuals in the, breeder community, and, a lot of people don't like the word breeder, but just like straight people call me a faggot, I'm gonna call them a breeder.
Yeah.
What it is. Okay. Because what do? Y'all breed. 2/3 of this conversation, 3/4 of this conversation, if Carlos were here, 3/4 of this conversation will have bred and have children. I don't have kids.
Yeah.
As I like to say, I'm not childless, I'm child free. So having this conversation and being able to discuss this topic with you all, it's refreshing because we have preconceived notions and assumptions about you all as a community and you all as a unit within Black America. Us, three of us being Black men, even though I'm queer, I have preconceived notions about you all as being heterosexual Black men that may or may not be true. However, just like y'all get together at the water cooler or the barbershop, we also get together when we go to happy hour and we have kickbacks at house parties. And I'm safe to say in this space, we clown y'all just in the way that some of y'all may clown us.
Clown, yeah. No, real. That's real.
Like I literally. Oh, go ahead, James. Yeah.
No, I think that's the reason why I wanted to have the conversation. But even though we are unfiltered here, you still have to be mindful in this day and age. Not necessarily amongst us, because we have a history of knowing each other. But I think for our viewers, you have to be careful having a conversation. And I want to kind of kick that door down a little bit by just normalizing the topic, right? I think too often what we do, we fight with words. We fight with beliefs, right? Well, I'm a Christian, so what that means, well, I don't have to hit. I don't hit nobody across their head nowhere else in society. I don't go to work. You don't do that, right? Like, like you said, we don't do that in our family. We got things going on in our family that. So I'm like, why do we only do it in certain particular parts of our communities? And what I've often found, where you look at racism, you look at so many different things, we often do that for parts where we fail to understand or we choose not to understand. And so with all intents and purposes, I wanted this conversation to be a conversation to where, no, we're going to normalize just having conversations as three guys. And as we explore different parts in thought process together, well, if you have a question for me, Greg, well, I'll answer it, and hopefully vice versa. And what I'm hoping is that our audience open up their minds, because too often we love being the judge, and why? Like, what does it do for me to demean Frankie because he's an Omega?
Mm-hmm.
Just really think about that. And I know the audience won't have any perspective, but just think about our friendship and things we've shared, we've been through. That literally would change our lives, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think all the time we find of these communities in our families, like, are we prepared still not to have the conversation? Are we prepared to change lives and understanding by simply not having the conversation or having a fear or a phobia, just like we do with anybody else in society, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I thank you for being able to look past that. We definitely understand the hate and the vitriol and the ignorance that's out there. So for you to just show up and say, hey, look, I trust this platform to be able to have that conversation and provide a safe space for you to ask some of your questions. Well, I think sometimes we forget. Everybody's not like me. Everyone don't believe what I believe. Everybody don't think what I think and feel. So if I want some understanding in this world, I'm gonna have to create some space to say, okay, it's your turn. And so that's why I didn't want to lead off. We got these questions for you. I don't speak for every heterosexual man. Right. I don't back that, right? You know. So no, I appreciate having the space of one question I do have. What do you think is the number one misconception when it comes to men that are heterosexual that you hear, you feel, or you know about someone who lives your lifestyle? What do you? And I know that can be exhaustive within itself, but what do you think is the number one thing that off the top, like, yeah, that's wrong. Like that's the one I want to address first. If nothing else, I want to address that one first.
That all gay niggas want all straight niggas. That's the main one. And even before you finish it, because literally, and I'm glad you brought this up, because 30 minutes before we got on this, I was on Instagram and I was looking at a, cis het breeder podcast, and it was 4 niggas who are breeders. And they were like, well, what would you do if your best friend came out and told you that he was gay or whoop-de-woo? And then after that, y'all already planned a trip to Vegas and, you were staying with him in the same room. And so I actually sent it to one of my, breeder homeboys. He's 27. I'm 43. And the first thing that I said in the comment was, if you and I have to stay in a room together and we're going to Vegas, I'm not going, because it's giving broke. It's giving poor. It's giving destitute. And you want to know why? Because if I'm going out of town with you, but this also applies to my homosexual friends as well, I don't like staying in hotel rooms with other people. The reason that I don't like staying in hotel rooms with other people is because if I'm out of town, I'm trying to smash. And I ain't got time to be like, okay, well, Frankie, you gonna be in the room for this hour.
When I got this sock on the door,
no. I purposely, I'm going to Houston for Memorial Day. I'll be in Houston this weekend. I'm being Houston for Juneteenth. I'm being Houston for 4th of July. The only reason I'm sharing a room for 4th of July is because I'm sharing it with my twin brother, who is also gay. But that's my twin brother. But Juneteenth and Memorial Day, nigga, I'm staying at the A-Loft. I got 2 queen size beds. One is the sleep bed. One is the boom boom bed. You can't sleep when you sleep.
Get it done,
so, just seeing that and just seeing the fact that there are heterosexual men, and some of y'all sit and really have these conversations as if we want some of y'all, once again, some of y'all rusty, dusty asses. When your mama don't want you, your girlfriend don't want you, your wife don't want you, your baby mama don't want you. And you come at me and be like, oh, well, we gonna be cool, just don't hit me with that gay shit. Nigga, I wouldn't hit you with shit in general. And so Greg, I think
you know the goal.
Yes.
You know the goal to get followed. We probably lost by 100 followers.
I mean, you said it was unfiltered. Brother.
It is what it is.
Hey, I can't even lie to you, Greg. Because when I be talking, I'm like, man, shit, I'm cool. Shit, as long as you don't hit on me, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and it's just like
that used to be my like. I don't care.
Frank, I know you for like years.
Yeah,
Audience, I've known Frank and I went to school together.
That's right.
James and I went to school together. Never did I look at y'all in the yard and be like, you know what? I'm trying to fuck. No.
Here's what I want to do, and not to put you on the spot, Frankie, but let's take something that Greg just said. Why do you think heterosexual men, have a fear or a phobia of being around a homosexual man? Like it's just in your mindset. I know there's no right or wrong answer, but why do you like that? We're fearful. We're intended. Like right, we'll put ourselves around bad company, whatever, without even thinking. Right, like we'll go over there. No, we're not going to, but like someone who
y'all go to South Dallas and be with hood, but don't want to be around gay men.
Someone who lives a lifestyle.
It's the understanding. Nobody takes the time to understand one another. And I think we talked about this in the debriefing. And I always say this, it's always majority rules sometimes, man. You know, like you don't want to take the time to get to know the person, you know what I'm saying? And when the majority goes like, hey man, yeah, we ain't on that gay shit, and you sitting back like, man, you know, like I could have known Greg from childhood, and the whole script could flip. And Greg sitting there looking like bro, you know me. Well, I mean, I kick it with them. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro, like you know me, bro.
Yeah.
And it's that majority rules and not trying to understand the person. You see what I'm saying?
So let's go deeper. Do you think, I always say ignorance is not knowing, right? Stupidity is when you know and you just choose to still do. Yep. So if I'm hearing you correctly, is that from old ideology we're taught when we're young, that ignorance that turns to stupidity? Because the reality is, how often do we have these type of conversations, right? And when we do have these conversations in our heterosexual community, we're having them with a label, right? Like we're picking out vegetables or fruit. Hey, not this one, that one, not this one. And the sad reality is we even do that with our females. That's what's so ironic about it, which is bad, right? But it's like, do you think that comes from our ignorance of just not having the conversation that by the time we get old, now we're just stupid. We're set in our way. Like there's no true rhyme to the reason. We just kind of default on bad teaching.
It's environment, man. Environment rules all. You can't go in this life expecting to be in a solitude state. A white person can't go through this whole world without bumping into a black person. Same thing with a black person. You can't go through this whole world without bumping into a white person. A heterosexual male can't go through his whole lifespan without bumping into a homosexual person. So instead of being fearful, you know, you're gonna have to meet some of these things head on, you know, and you're gonna have to have this conversation. Now, it's kind of tricky too, because you do have some people that come straight up like, hey, you know, and just start asking you questions off the rip and don't even know you. Now that could be offensive kind of too. But some people can be just that curious and like want to get to know you like that, and that's their way of like trying to figure it out and see like, hey, is this person cool to kick it with, or can I confide in this person like a friend, this, that, and the other. You know what I'm saying? But I mean, you have to do that. You got to talk. You know.
And I want to make sure you brought up some. I want to make sure that we are very intentional in this conversation, and we'll talk about that part later for those who cross the line on both sides, because I do think, okay, now we're talking about a separate issue. What we're talking about is someone with no ill will, no disrespect. They're just being themselves, right? And I think oftentimes, because as you were talking and you use that word fear, I'm challenging ourselves like, that's not fear, right? Like, maybe we just tuck it away and say in fear, but why am I fearful of Greg? That's not fear, right? Like there's another term to that, and I think it's judgment. Right? We don't want to say it, right? But I think that's more me judging Greg or me judging you Omega. Well, I heard Omegas. That's not me being fearful. That's me judging. And so I say it all the time. A lot of times we justify our emotions by trying to find the right word to cover up the wrong meaning, right? And so, to me, I just don't think that's fear. I think we just have to call it like it is. If we say we're going to normalize this conversation, now that's me judging someone. And quite frankly, if I'm judging someone before I even talk to them, met them, or what have you, even if it's based on past conceived notions, then we're going to probably be at a default already. Greg, I want to kind of let you kind of jump back in here, but I want to make sure as we have this conversation that there is some groundwork that's being laid so that when we start putting some thoughts and processes on it, it can be understood, because so many people easily put stereotypes and just what's commonly said in society and just trying to make a case of that. And it's like, no, that's not what we're doing here, right? We're having a genuine, candid conversation that we want to lay a foundation for. And as you listen to what Greg said earlier, okay, how many of us go out of town that's the main reason why if we're single, right? That, hey, I want a room because if I want to do whatever I want to do, I want to do it. It has nothing to do with lifestyle and preference. So I think that's a small example. And I'll turn it back over to you, Greg, how we can rush in with a judgment. It's like, but that's a human thing. You know, if I go out of town, I have me a little situation. Hey, I want to be able to have some QT time with us. A human thing. It has nothing to do with that. And so I think just that's a small example of how we as heterosexual men rush in with judgment and don't realize like we probably got more in common than we do different. We just view it and go about it differently. Go ahead, Brett.
Because let's say, so I have 3 points to make with a lot of what the two of you just said. The first one is, if all three of us were single and we going out of town together, I would think as 3 men, the goal would be, we fucking something. Y'all gonna be fucking some pussy, I'm gonna be fucking the nigga. So why would I want to stay with y'all? Why would y'all want to stay with me? Like, you know, every time I go out of town, my goal is to smash. So, and once again, I got two of my best friends. They're both gay. And one of my best friends, he's on the same wavelength that I am. You get your own room, I'm getting my own room. Our other best friend is like, oh, well, I'm gonna stay with one of y'all. No, the fuck you not. Cause nigga, I'm trying to fuck. So you got to figure that out. If you can't afford to have your own room, that's cool. You don't need to come. So that's point number 1. Point number 2, I think having this conversation, particularly with the 3 of us that are here, because y'all have known me for a long time.
Yeah.
I've known y'all for a long time. It's taken 10, 15, 20 years for us to have this conversation. And so then for me, coming from this perspective, knowing that 10, 15, 20 years ago, there was a level of discomfort that you all had because of my sexual orientation, that's something that needs to be addressed. We're not strangers, the 3 of us. And so having that conversation and knowing that, like Frankie, much to your point, you know, if you and I came up through elementary school, through X's and O's and tic-tac-toe, but now we grown, it's like, so you're not you specifically, but there are certain heterosexual men who will allow nature to dictate the relationship that you've had with somebody since you were 5, 6, 7 years old. There's something that I think, particularly in the heterosexual Black man community, that's crazy. Like, lack for a better word, that's crazy. Also, going back to a point that you made earlier, Frankie, about that level of discomfort, and you know, there's so many cis-het Black men who feel uncomfortable about that. I always question how those same Black men feel when Black women exclude them from conversations and exclude them from spaces and exclude them from environments, and whether they feel offended or they understand the discomfort that Black women have when excluding them from that, or if they're going to be on the typical, well, fuck you, bitch, because you don't know me. So now you're judging me without knowing me because I fit a stereotype or a perception that you had a negative experience with or no experience whatsoever when you were younger. You're just falling in line with everyone else. And so I'm glad that this conversation is being had, because perception is a hell of a drug. And perception is a hell of a thing and a lens to put on yourself because you don't know me. And so once again, and we talked about this like last week, and James and I shared this and everything like that. When I'm on the yard for homecoming, that's why I don't associate with the chapter. That's why I don't associate with a whole lot of people, because at the age that I'm at and the accolades that I have and the successes that I have and the autonomy I've been able to build and develop, people in my 20s and in their 20s chose not to associate with me because of something that is none of their business. It has nothing to do with them. And so you feel like 20 years later, oh, well, we could go ahead and bury that under the sand. No, nigga,
growth,
we can't.
You think growth was set in?
Yeah, no, nigga, keep that same fucking energy. Keep that same fucking energy.
I think one of the things, and I'll speak for me, we always talk about on this podcast being unfiltered, doesn't necessarily give us license to try to speak for everyone, right? And I think it's dangerous also, especially when it comes to beliefs and action. I think with me, it was it has always been a very normal thing for me because, like I said, I have it in my family. And so I've always seen it. I think some of the challenge sometimes is in a society where it's so emotionally led. How do you start that conversation? And that was something what I conveyed to you, Greg, when I reached out to you. It's like, you want to make sure you come off in good taste, with discernment and the whole 9 yards. But, let's face it, we do live in a society, and even though we don't agree with a lot of things in society, we're still judged, right, by some of the things that society says, whether it's false or not. And so I think some of the times the challenge is, and that's why I appreciate spaces like this, is like, where do you begin to have that conversation in good taste? Because there may be an articulation that may come across wrong, but this is just the best I know how. Think about a baby saying "Goo gaga." You don't fault a baby, speak English. No, you teach and partner with that baby until they are intelligent enough to speak like we do. And so I think it's the same thing, not only just in this circumstance, I think in anything in life that we don't grow up learning or don't feel it's as important. Because see, there are some things, Greg, with your lifestyle that are important to your lifestyle. It just has to be, I don't have to deal with it, vice versa. But here's the thing about it is, there's also a lot more commonality. That if we don't ever have the conversation, we throw that away. And we get dumber, if you will. We get more ignorant. And I think that's how we slide into our stupidity, because stupidity has no answer. And that's why I kind of thought about myself, like, well, why do some guys? Now, I can see if someone made an advance to you, or someone, like we'll talk about later, cross the line. But why really think about it? Like, do heterosexual guys think about, we just feel some type of way, like you said. And I love my fraternity and, and all that in my chapters. Shout out to our 50th this year. But I even noticed, like, the change that I saw when you came on the yard during homecoming had nothing to do with you. It was like, that's frat. You know what I mean? Like, oh, so now that's a poor damn excuse to treat anybody, let alone someone you call your brother between the bonds. So my curiosity was always, how do I get on the other side of the fence and just object to see how he feels while being me, but letting him know that I genuinely want to know that. So I can get better. That's something that I don't see, right? Sometimes that can be a hard conversation. It's like you alluded to with females. Females always think you're not emotional. Well, I'm an emotional guy, so me telling my emotions sometimes can come off as game. No, shit. No, this is how I feel. So it's always
y'all be hard, like everything. Oh, I feel so bad for y'all because everything y'all can't be a passenger seat in the car. Y'all can't eat a banana. Y'all can't do this. And I just be sitting there like, damn, these strangers can't do shit.
These young guys and took it to a whole extreme, bro. Okay, pause and then pause. Like,
I just feel bad for y'all, man. Y'all.
I think ultimately you have to want to have the conversation.
Yeah.
Because I'm pretty sure some people will look at this podcast and say, wait a minute, you say you're talking about conversation between men and women. Why is this conversation necessary? So you can't please everybody, right? And I'm going to say this on air. We're not trying to. We're not trying to hug the world with this. We do believe that there are some people out there that are emotionally intelligent enough to understand the dynamic of three black men sitting down, having this conversation, trying to normalize the topic and learn more about each other and learn more importantly, more about this part of our lives, right? But we can do that about so many different things, right? Greg and I could talk about Frankie, how his life adds coming into Omega Psi Phi. He could do the same thing without Phi. Like there are so many different nuances. Frank could want to know about our lock journey, growing our hair. Like there are so many things that are different about us that we normalize to sit down and have the conversation. We just have to quit making this was such a polarizing topic simply because it's different. No, Frank is not demeaning us and stand off because we got locks and he don't. Yeah. Right? We're not demeaning to him and looking at him crazy because he wears glasses and we not. That's his lifestyle, right?
Yeah.
So that's why I think we have to point to normalize it.
Like there's so many things that I could ask you all. Like I don't have children. You all have children. You chose to have children.
As you've seen and heard.
Yes. And for me, when I sit there and realize and conceptualize, oh, they have kids and they did it on purpose. Maybe on accident, but on purpose. I don't know. Not my business. However, I'm like, why? And so I come from, James, much to your point, that lens of judgment. I have to pull myself back because, my dad was big on, you got to continue the legacy and you got to continue the name. Why? Why do I want to bring more black children into the United States in 2024, knowing that this shit is the way that it is now? Why would I choose to do that on purpose? And children are expensive. Once again, I can look at Frankie. Frankie's in law enforcement. How's it being a black man in law enforcement in this country? There's so many nuances. However, if I sit here and I just sit in my room without my children and not law enforcement, and I judge and be like, oh, well, James and Frankie got kids. I don't know why they do that. Or Frankie voluntarily chose to be in law enforcement, knowing how, police brutality, affects black men. And he's a black man in law enforcement. That I then step away from that. And then I realized, because I also face discrimination as a black queer man in the South, I can't imagine what it's like being a black man in the South, raising black boys in the South. I can't imagine what it's like being a black man in law enforcement in the South, knowing how black people look at law enforcement. So then that curiosity bubbles up and it's like, well, tell me more about that because I need to understand. Because when you all are not in those spaces and I'm in the spaces where they are talking about black men, black fathers, black law enforcement, I'm like, oh, well, I actually know 2 or 3 guys who are in the same situation. And this is what they told me. Because once again, we're in a very homogenous environment. Homogenous meaning you're hanging out with primarily heterosexual men. I'm hanging out with primarily homosexual men.
Mm-hmm.
We're hanging out with primarily black people. And so once again, Frankie, like you said, we can't go through this world and not be exposed to white people, black people, straight people, homosexual people with kids.
So I want to get you guys' opinions on this. And it sounds off topic, but I promise you it's a part of this foundation. Why do you think we pride ourselves or we're okay with our ignorance, our not knowing? It's easier for us to default and regurgitate. You think back in the day when you read a newspaper, there's no need to read a newspaper from even yesterday, right? something's going to change about that article. But now we don't even exercise. Sometimes seems like the muscle memory capacity to say, let me just learn something new. Let me just take the time to clean the slate. Like, why do you think we at times seem like we embrace the dumbed down, watered down thought process and celebrate it like genius? Like we'll read
bro,
3 words.
I'm telling you, it's majority, man.
Then we'll argue like, like we undone a dissertation or something. Like, why do you think that is, man? And either one of y'all can go on this.
Go ahead, Frankie. Go ahead.
I'm telling majority, man. Look, but that also spawns stuff like Siskel and Ebert. Like, do you really need somebody to tell you that this movie sucked or this movie is good? Why don't you go look at it for yourself and make your own opinion? It's that majority. It's easier to let Greg tell me, yeah, man, that shit over there was whack. Well, I trust Greg. But some stuff you got to find out on. You got to go experience for yourself, find out on your own, figure it out on your own. You know what I'm saying? It's crazy. Like I firmly believe it's just majority, man, and people just staying with the herd and not being able to just think it and rationalize on their own.
So you're saying trends allow us that, whatever the trend is in social media, in entertainment, trends in our lifestyle, like all these trends, we just kind of adopt them because in order for anything to trend, right, it has to be the majority, right? It has to be the most of. So in other words, you're saying that we don't even think anymore. We just kind of ride the wave.
Yeah,
it comes through.
It's almost it's like a flow,
Yeah, that's scary. Like, I know we use these terms all the time, but when you just think about that in its all practical terms, where we're not even thinking, we're just going to jump on, and wherever it goes, and whoever's against, whoever's about, we're not even thinking about them. We're not even functioning as human beings anymore. We're just going to go where the majority is going. That's scary. Good Dr. Shirley, man. What are your thoughts, man? Because what I'm trying to do is arrive to our listeners, instead of listening to defend, we are intentionally not talking about our beliefs. Your beliefs are your beliefs. Your lifestyle, we're intentionally leaving that out because we don't want to use that as a bait and hook, right? And I know some of my so-called Christians are going to feel a certain type of way. That's not what we're talking about. I think that's easy. I think when it comes down to what we believe in and how we live our lives, that's personal and it's easy to make those decisions. What I'm talking about is that judgment, that discrimination that Greg talked about. I'm trying to normalize that and help us paint the picture that I think we all, just like Greg did, what we do it on our side, right? Like we sit back and have to catch ourselves. And that's the thing that I'm trying to put on the table and kind of getting our audience to understand that it's not necessarily the person to the left or the right, but no, it could very much well be you two also. So Greg, again, where do you think we get this mindset of think little and judge big, so to speak? Like, I don't know a lot about that. I'll just capture what comes across my face, but I'll defend it to its death without thinking, if that makes sense.
I think for a lot of us, we don't listen to, and James, you alluded to some of this already, but we listen to respond and not to understand. And, it goes back to the saying that God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, so you should listen twice as much as you speak. And the older that I've gotten, the more that I've leaned into that because I don't know everything. I feel like particularly, and this may or may not resonate with your listeners depending on the demographic, I feel like the demographic that is our age, that is like mid-30s to mid-40s, we still have those same values because you mentioned earlier, like back in the day, people could have a conversation. I don't understand something. My father was the same way. So like I can sit with my father He was 76 when he passed away. My oldest sister, she'll be 62 this year. We can sit and have those conversations. However, my younger sister at 32 and my nephew at 26, they're not trying to hear it.
Mm-mm.
So, and not to, call anybody out on purpose, but this is the sexy red generation. Like this is the Glorilla generation. At the end of the day got to end. And so
I like that quote though.
I do like that quote because it's very true. Because at the end of the day, this day will
got to end.
And it's going to be the next thing. However,
UKP does not endorse. No,
we're so used to ingesting. Well, we're not. This generation, that is not even the next generation, but the generation after them. And I see it in my nieces and my nephews who are 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They're that screen generation. Like it's instantaneous. And so as soon as I see it and I'm exposed to it, and that algorithm gives me the same things that I like and I share, and I'm seeing the same thing regurgitated over and over and over again, that's where I'm building my consciousness. Gone are the days where a Frankie, a James, or a Greg will go to a library and read different books and be asked by educators to give opposing viewpoints on a topic. We don't have the capacity in our generation now to look at opposing viewpoints. It's just one viewpoint and that's it. That's why it's like Biden or Trump.
Right.
Or no one.
Yep.
Right.
No, that's real talk right there.
Greg, I have a question. Oftentimes in the heterosexual community, you find people who, as a result of what you just spoke on and what Frank just spoke on, we find ourselves just going along. We're not necessarily true to it. We're just kind of, it's the majority, it's the thing to do. In other words, there's no deep connection to it, right? Even if we learn how to fake it to make it, there's no true connection. What I wanted to ask in your community, do you guys ever observe or look at the landscape of you all's community and see the same thing from you all's standpoint? Is there more of, just because in 2024, it's more freedom, it's more liberation, is more accepting in places to where people can live, how they want to live in their lifestyle. So do you all see that kind of going along, as it will, to where it's not necessarily that's who you are, it's just kind of you're riding the wave on this also, if that makes sense?
Mm-hmm. I see it as a yes, no. I would definitely say going back. So it's less to do with LGBTQ as a whole. And I think that there's some similarities in, the heterosexual community and the LGBTQ community, right? Because, for example, you're heterosexual, but you're not heterosexuals who are 19, 20, 21, 22, 23. So y'all looking at y'all same microcosm of your community and like, what the fuck are y'all doing?
Yeah, so it's basically like a demographic thing.
Yes, it's more of a generational demographic shift. And so I can remember when I was in my 20s and my 30s, our partying and our social life was very segregated. The white folks did they shit on their end. The Mexicans did it with the white folks because they like to, assign with the white folks. The Asians did it with them. The niggas was by themselves. Very few and far between will we see like Hispanic, Asian, white people partying in black spaces that were queer. And what we would see is, oh, well, you got a fetish. Or you trying to be down, because we are very different. And so I'll say this, and I'll be very transparent with this. Like the generation that I see now, when I go out, like when I do Sunday Fun Day, because Sunday Fun Day is big for the gays, we be out till 11, 12, 2 a.m. in the morning on the Sunday.
Still y'all be out there, baby. Y'all be partying.
We be out there. Freaky though. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Wednesday. We're outside. What I've noticed in the last year or two is I'm seeing more Black, queer, homosexuals partying with the white people and partying with Hispanics. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, my concept was it was very segregated. And so for me, that's why also I am not comfortable in that. I feel like I'm in danger, but the vibe is different for me when people are like, oh, well, let's go hang out with the straight folks at Stir in Deep Ellum, or let's go to Federales, or let's go to, no. I love y'all to death, but I have to be in heterosexual spaces Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. When I'm trying to kick it, I'm being with the punks. Segregation now, segregation forever, segregation for life. Because, one, I know the likelihood of me pulling a nigga is going to be greater if I'm in a gay space. I ain't got time to do this whole dance of will they, won't they? And that's what I noticed with, like, when I'm talking to my heterosexual homeboys, they like, oh, well, we got to take this young lady out. We got to pay $200. We got to do this. We got to do this. It's 3 or 4 dates we got to get before we even smash. Nigga, I could go on this phone right now and I can have a nigga here in 15 minutes and we fucking. The fact that y'all got to do this dance, I feel bad for y'all.
Let's wait till after the podcast.
No, yeah, we'll wait till after the podcast. So but you know,
let me talk on that too, because I totally get what you're saying. Working doing security for clubs.
Yeah.
The younger gays, you're not lying, man. They don't care what night it is, bro. They coming to party. You know what I'm saying? It could be. We used to have, you knew the night. It could be dope boy night. They there. it could be Latin night. They there. Like, yeah, the younger ones, man. They just want to come kick. And I feel what you're saying. I can sing it. You only hear on Sunday, man.
On Wednesdays we go to Westminster. On Fridays we will go to 3606. Maybe on Sundays we at OT at 3606. That's it.
Yeah,
you're not gonna see me the rest of the week.
Yeah,
because it's not Black people and it's not Black gay people. And so for me, I feel like when I come to like a 3606 or a OT tavern or an on premise on a day that's not gay night, I feel like I'm infiltrating, and then I'm uncomfortable because I see a lot of Black heterosexual men, particularly, looking at me like I don't belong here. And so I see the same thing when my straight friends, because I have straight friends, straight Black men, totally.
Hey, and that's another that's another thing too, because when you see them come in on Sunday. And they kind of feel awkward sitting with you.
However, there are a lot of Black women who will come in with gay Black besties,
and
so
they husband, or they boyfriend, you ain't lying.
They're like, oh, okay, well, that means I can pull up on a shorty because she here with her gay bestie, and when I let her know that I'm straight. Some of them may fuck with it like that, but I'm looking at y'all like, why the fuck are y'all here? This ain't y'all day. This ain't y'all night. Why y'all here? Now, y'all gonna act real bad because y'all gonna think somebody, right, wrong, or indifferent is gonna hit on y'all. But I also tell my gay...
Especially when liquor get flowing too, bro.
Yeah. And I'm like, so when my straight homeboys come with me, I'm like, listen, these niggas may hit on you. One of two things is gonna happen. You either need to tell them that you fucking with me and you ain't fucking with them, or when they hit on you, I'm gonna have to come and be like, nah, he's straight. Because and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Whether you are a straight man or a gay man, you're still a man. And in many cases, men have an entitlement issue. And they think because they want you, they're entitled to you. And when they say no, whether you are a heterosexual man or whether you are a woman, Black men in general, in many cases, not all, but some, have a rejection issue. They don't take rejection well.
We talked about, we did.
Because their mamas told them that they are entitled to everything.
It's hard for a motherfucker to accept no. Yeah.
So yes, with that being said, when it comes to that, I'm like, we gotta, that's something, once again, like James said, we have that in common. because you can be a gay man or a straight man, but if you're a black man, you don't like rejection.
Mm-hmm.
I had to tell a gay nigga today, I don't like you because you built like a box Chevy with bucket seats. And he ain't like that.
We definitely know we got somebody to follow. But let me ask you a question. As we kind of navigate through the different nuances of likenesses and similarities and differences, right? And we're normalizing them. I think that's the thing we're doing here. We're not rushing in with judgment. We're saying, okay, hey, what's similar about Omega Psi Phi that the Alpha Alpha is similar? Well, they got 3 letters in their organization. Oh, we got 3 Greek letters. What are some differences? Well, your color is purple and gold. Well, I was black. No. Like, that's the type of conversation for those who are just coming in, a candid conversation between a member of the LGBTQ community and UKP. We're normalizing conversation amongst 3 black men, and we're just simply just delving off into each other's lifestyle, finding out about each other, and we're saying, hey, what's similar, what's different? And on those differences, hey, can we have this space to ask questions on that to get a better understanding, right? And so with that being said, Greg, I noticed in all our in black culture, we have a conversation about this word nigga, right? On one end, you have those who say, well, we don't use it because it's bad word, it takes power from them. And then you have some who say, no, we're taking that word back and we're empowering it, right? I think at the end of the day, based on how you use it and who use it, we do translate it differently. What I wanted to know is, how do you guys transpose now crossing the barrier of lifestyle? Because I noticed there are certain conversations in your community, right? Just like in our black community, when we say nigga, it denotes differently. So now I notice as you talk, you use words like punk and whatnot jovially. What does that balance look like, or what does that look like as those words now cross lifestyles, if that makes sense? One thing that I found,
homosexual, heterosexual, or within like the queer community.
Yeah. Well, in context of the queer community, because of course I'm not a member of that, so I do want to be in line on that. But now, as you bring that word out, it's kind of like when we hear Eminem use the word nigga. Some people kind of like, he can't use that. Like, well, now that it crossed,
like what J-Lo said, tell them niggas mind their business because I ain't feeling it, and a lot of people like J-Lo can't say the word nigga.
Yeah. So what?
Well, so Fat Joe can't say nigga.
Yeah. I think that's what James trying to go. Yeah.
We have ongoing conversations in our community as general. All 3 of us, far as rappers can use it, but then these people can't do it. If a white person is repeating that rap, they can't. What is the context? And the reason why I'm going there, because at the end of the day, depending on who use it, there can be disrespect associated with these words, right? So I wanted to know your thought process and how do you guys maneuver through the language that is sometimes associated within your community in context of those who are outside of your community.
So for me, like, whether I know you or not, as I've gotten older,
okay,
and I feel like me being 43, I am probably more aligned with a lot of the 20-somethings. If I hear a heterosexual person refer to me as a punk, a sissy, fag, fudge packing, pillow biting sissy, all of these are examples. It does not aggress me, because I'm gonna come back and call you a breeder, or I'm gonna say this and I'm gonna say, so it's almost like we're playing the dozens, right?
Yeah.
I know for some individuals it's not going to be received in that way. However, it goes back to a white person calling you a nigga. You're going to respond to what you're called, and you're going to react depending on who that person is. If I don't know you, it's not going to be something that's going to be an issue to me, because you don't know me to call me that. You don't know what I do in this bed over here. behind closed doors.
Right.
If you know me, like you, once again, we've known each other for a long time. We know each other, but I don't know what goes on in y'all bedrooms. You don't know what goes on in my bedroom. So the minute you call me a sissy, I'm gonna be calling you knuckle dragging, shitty booty ass breeder. So now who's mad? Now who's upset? And so as I hear people utilizing the terminology, it goes into more of a general stream of acceptance. And I know there's going to be a lot of people who do not advocate for that. And like you said earlier, James, just like you don't speak for all heterosexuals, I don't speak for all homosexuals or all queer people.
Yeah.
But if you were to say that to me, I'm going to just look at you like, okay, well, how am I about to read you for filth? Or, we play in the dozens because I know Frankie and I know James and we going to say this and da-da-da-da-da. And
we shooting shit. Yeah.
I don't see a problem.
So, and the reason why I'm laying this context out, and I appreciate again those who have not ran away from the title, not ran away from the first few words we've had and stuck in here with us for an hour and 20 minutes. I'm intentional in laying this foundation of normalcy so that we can set this conversation on and be able to have it without it being looked upon with an asterisk by it. Because if you notice throughout the conversation, and the one thing that I'm learning even more, if you look at people like they're human, you see a lot of similarities, right? And I think sometime again, the bigger question is probably for another day. How do we be able to live with our value system, our beliefs, while not taking our eye off the ball and looking at each other as human beings? Because I think we live in a society where it's either or, right? Like I know when I had this when I wanted to have this conversation, you know, and I have confidants that I kind of reach out to just to bounce ideas off of. One of the feedback I have as a Christian, what do I think having this conversation is going to do on a platform that I'm a part of? And my response will help people learn, right? Like, why do we have to either or? Because when it's all said and done, how do we learn about people then, right? And for some reason, like I said before, and I always use the analogy, why do we act like our differences is a stain? It's this marker that I'm saying, Greg, I'm going to put this on you, and this stain is not going to come out. We shouldn't look at understanding people that way, right? Now, we'll transition into, you know, because we talked about this in the past, there is a level of, and Frank, I'll kind of come to you first on this, because I think you, as a heterosexual male, you've seen this on firsthand, right? Having worked security in clubs. Now, what we want to explore is those who weaponize their lifestyle. We're heterosexual, you know, we heard about the horrific violent crime, hate crime, who weaponize, because I live this lifestyle, I will cross the line, not for understanding, but to demean. And we've heard of people who's in the LGBTQ community steps across that line to prove a point and weaponize.
Yep.
Now that looks differently, right?
Yep.
And oftentimes, based on that community, we don't get to have this conversation. We lump it all. Sure, one thing I'm going to say about you, I'm going to circle back, and Frank, I'm going to give it to you. When I first learned of Greg's lifestyle, what shocked me from a respect standpoint is that when he came around, he was still a brother. He didn't try to be, he didn't try to have people answer for, he didn't try to put out questions. I'm just going to be me. Right? And that's why, like, if I gravitate on you and you mess with, if we don't, I'm over here. And to me, I thought that was a lesson within himself, because I'm like, I'm looking at people, I'm going to be real, some of my own beloved frat brothers acting and navigating around. I'm like, but y'all missed the lesson. Like, just be each other, right? And just embrace each other. Then nothing changed. There was no disrespect. There was no across the line. There was no over the top. And I think a lot of time, because we do have members in our society who do that, we automatically equate that that's a Greg issue, right? Or sometimes there are members in the LGBTQ community. Well, you all have to be responsible for that. And so I want to kind of delve into that a little bit. What does that really look like? Or in your case, Frank, and I know not from a security standpoint, what does that look like when there is overreach now? We're not talking about being respectful and whatnot. And now you're in a situation where I got to address the disrespect. And don't act like the disrespect is hating. I got to address the disrespect. I want you to answer that from your context, and I want to give Greg an opportunity to answer it from his context.
Well, it got to be a security concept. That's where I was working, man. God, now,
but I'm just from your personal standpoint. Of course, that's a security. You got protocols you have to follow. But I'm just saying, as a heterosexual male, what is your thought process on that? When now, bro, you're being disrespectful, but don't put words in my mouth like I'm hating on it. I'm addressing your disrespect. If that makes sense.
No, I'm dealing with that. You have to, because like I said, you have to put your hands on them when the owner says, "Hey, they need to leave." So, it's one of those things like, "Hey, man, I gotta kick you out. You gotta go. Come on." Well, you ain't do this such and such, and look, they pointed at you. You gotta go. Well, you only doing this because that. Whoa. No,
right.
None of that. And or you enjoying this because I'm gay and no, I ain't enjoying it, bro. They say you gotta go. You gotta go. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those things where sometimes you have to be clear cut, and you have to be conscious with your sexuality to know to don't fall for the bait. You know what I'm saying? Like, as long as you comfortable with yourself, like I got Nick in there, I got my 7 kids. I know I like pussy. I gotta do my job, bro. You gotta go. You know what I'm saying? So I think as a heterosexual male, you have to be comfortable with your sexuality. And again, like I said, like you got to go to work, man. So you just gonna quit your job because such and such over there sitting that cubicle gay? Let's be real about this. You need money. What he doing on his personal time ain't affecting nothing that's going on with this workspace. You know what I'm saying? Unless you allow it to.
I think the bigger thing, especially in today's society, let's just be real world. I wouldn't even say perception is reality. See, sometimes your opinion can be reality. No one wants that label of hate. Like, that's a strong term, right? I'm secure in my lifestyle, so to me, I don't even but I think no one wants that label of it. And I think some of this, Greg, and I'm gonna turn over to you, comes into how the conversation for some can be hard, because it's like, am I addressing Greg or am I addressing the hate that I know I don't have to show him I don't have it so I can address him? Well, that's difficult, right? Because there is a power, right, that can put that label on you, and you like, no, that one this and this one that. But like we said earlier, but we gotta address it though, because it's 2024. You know, maybe back in the day you could say that everybody believe you, but now it's such a polarizing topic where there are a lot of people who on both sides of the aisle who lead with their emotions, to where when you say hate or you hate me, and that thing sometimes take off like a wildflower. Now you're branded.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're. I never forget. My team at the time when I started my marketing and publishing company, she said, someone asked a question like, "What would you do if one of your customers who want to publish their book is a member of the LGBTQ community?" I said, "I'm gonna publish their book." And I really didn't understand where she was coming from, but I thought about it like, oh wow, okay, that's interesting, because if they have a book, let's say that's about the topic, and I could see, members of my Christian community or Black community, oh, why you?
Why you publishing that?
That's a strong topic to live down when someone irresponsibly placed on you. That's why I'm getting at. You know, you find yourself having to not only to try to understand at that point, you have to put that to the side, and now it's almost like you have to defend, which can sometimes come across the perception as if you've done something wrong. And I think that can build on. But with that being said, Greg, not to get off on a tangent, I kind of want to go back and kind of ask you the same question. Those within inside the community that now weaponize it on the other side of the aisle to where, needless to say, we still have an ongoing battle with the hate crimes and all these different things, the discrimination. That's documented. We're still in 2024 having to deal with this, but now you got to provoke, right?
Yep.
And now sometimes that causes now a pushback between two group of people that otherwise, hey, we're having the conversation, we're understanding. How do you? Well, let me say this: do you see that within your community? And if so, have you ever found yourself having to address it, or what do you just think about that in general? I don't want to sound like
Oh yeah, totally. So and before I touch on that, Frankie mentioned an interesting point of, we're at work and, he's in the cubicle and there's someone who is queer in the cubicle next to him. You still gotta get your work done. This was a conversation that I believe it was President Truman, who was the first president to desegregate the federal government, because there was a time when Black people could not work for the federal government. Okay. And so the same way that a heterosexual and a queer person need to work in the same cubicle together to get their job done, the same conversation was probably had with white and Black people. But at the end of the day, you have to get your job done. So it goes back to I think the underlying theme that we've talked about, that discrimination is discrimination, whether it's skin tone or sexual orientation. However, I have been in those situations and I have seen Frankie in action in those environments. We had to pick somebody out. I've been there in the section because I always had a section.
That's right.
But the thing about it is, just like there are belligerent people in the heterosexual community, there are going to be those belligerent people in the homosexual community and the queer community. And there are individuals who choose to weaponize their the correct terminology. It escapes me right now because I've been drinking. However, they choose to weaponize their special status, right? So I'm over 40, so I can weaponize because you're being discriminatory for my age. I'm going to weaponize my race, my gender, my sexual orientation, my ability status. It's in some cases it's all being a Karen, but in a different shade and a different hue. Because your tears are still Karen tears, but they're Black tears, or they're queer tears, or they're ableist tears, or they're age tears, or things like that. And so I am fortunate that the community and the subgroup of queer Black men that I spend time with and I congregate with, we do not do that, because we are also, and this is discrimination, and I'm going to own this. We're college educated. We have bachelor's degrees, master's degrees, terminal degrees. We're careered. We have benefits. We have insurance. We're salaried. So there's so many things that then feed into that, to where I'm not, and we're in our mid 30s and early 40s. We're not going to act like these kids who are 18 to 26, because that's all they know. And so I think that it comes as a process of, once again, James and Frankie are heterosexual Black men. Greg is a homosexual Black man. We were all 20 and 21 years old going to Nairobi's.
Yep.
We know how it was to go to Niggerobi's and act a fool in Deep Ellum.
Yeah.
And so we can't sit here and say that we did not do a manifestation of that. It may look different. However, we may have still engaged in that type of practice or activity. We have the benefit of now being older and surviving that. and saying, you know what, y'all, we shouldn't have did that. We shouldn't have did that. We sitting in our backyards now with our Crown and Coke or whatever, and our weed or cigars or whatever. Be like, y'all remember when we was 20-something years old and we was acting crazy in Nairobi's? We like so. I look at it now as, you know, Frankie doing security. It's the same thing. Like, look at it less as them being queer and more of them being in their 20s.
Yeah.
And acting
young. Yeah.
Because we all did it. We just, the only difference was we didn't have social media to put that shit on social media.
Man, blasted everyone. Yeah. Everybody trying to record.
You know, as you talked about that time frame, I think sometimes less is more. We just had a good time. Mm-hmm. And one thing I try to do, when I tell people when you have conversations, put yourself in it. Because sometimes we're just too good of a person. So when we finally see a dirty part of us, because we're so good, we miss the moment.
Try to hide it.
Put your hands in it. Right? Like, get in the shower, and if you, I need to scrub a little bit more, but don't stick one hand in it, and you'll never know your armpit is stinking. So get in it, so to speak. And I thought about that as you talked about those early years of us in college life, being at Nairobi and whatnot. Like, less was more. Like, we didn't care, man. Like, we was having fun. Like, there was not a single thought. Like, even if you mention it now, I'm just like, yeah, Greg was there. That was the extent of my knowledge and my concern of his well-being and safety. And we're going to have a conversation tomorrow. And I think we've lost that, man. Kind of like what Frankie said, by trying to fit in or fit these narratives. And I don't want to go off on a tangent, but even when we look at these narratives, like, who made them? Who said them? And I don't even, look, I'm going to say this. I might take a hit from my little community of Christians.
It's unscripted. Say
it. Hold on. The real one understand this. Sometimes the thing we hold on to is not even stated in our faith. We twist the word and make it comfortable for us, and then say, well, it's good. Not, that ain't that, like I told you about your article, your post on social media. That ain't nothing about it. No, that's not there. You know what I'm saying? So even if we try to, you know, put our faith on everything, no, that ain't what this and this ain't that. You know what I mean? And so I think what it's about. Where did we uphold these 3-letter dissertations? It's literally 3 letters, but we defend it like we're standing up defending a thesis or something like that. Doesn't make sense, man. So we have to get back to normalizing. And what we see throughout this conversation, man, we have common interests. And not one time did we bump heads. Not one time did we cut each other off. Not one time did we have to defend what I believe in and whatnot.
If anything, we laugh.
Same places.
That's it.
Places. Yeah. We had the same experience, and those that we did, guess what? Oh shit, I didn't realize that. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's similar. Hey, the same way we have that ongoing conversation about the word nigga and who can use it, who police it. Well, guess what? That community has the same thing. But we do know the same way we know white people use it. Guess what? They're asking us, hey, don't use that word when you're around us because this is the effects of it. And when you're talking about discrimination, we know automatically what that means when it comes from someone of a different race. Well, what about someone with a different lifestyle?
Yeah.
All these things I can go on and on, man.
People think you and I, they may think, James, you and I, because we got lots, we sell weed.
Right. You know.
Oh, we know where the weed at. Now, granted, do I know where the weed is at?
He looks like the weed man.
Is my plug also someone with locks? He is. However,
I get backhanded compliments still in corporate America.
God, no.
When someone sees I have, they think they're giving a compliment, but to me, I know it's a backhanded compliment. Oh, it's more like, oh, it's good that you know that to be a black man and have locks. It's almost like that's what you're saying, but in their mind, they're thinking they're giving a straight compliment. When in reality, they're shocked because someone who looks like me, someone who wears their hair like me. And I really think about that, man. And I want our audience, for whatever your difference is, think about it every day. you had to step out of your door and you were discriminated just because the way you wore your hair, just because you're a woman, just because you're a black man. I think it goes without saying, for my brother Greg being here and sharing, just a small tad bit of his lifestyle. Do you really want to put someone else through that type of discrimination? Is that really fair, right? And so what I want to do, man, this has been a great show, man. I do think this deserves to be another show at a later date because there are some nuances I don't think we was able to kind of stop into. What I wanted to do, again, to be very careful, is laying a foundation, right? So that our audience can see what we're laying on there. And we're not laying the regular stuff that everyone hear. We don't want that. You do that over there. We want to lay a foundation where we can have a healthy conversation. But what I do want to do as one final question, I want to go around. We talked about a whole lot of nuances. I'm one of them people, don't ever bring up a problem without a solution. I don't think God will give us, if you believe in God, you got to say that these days. But I don't think He give you a mindset. My pen is right there. You caught that? You know what I mean? But I don't think He will give us a mindset that can understand. Hey, Greg, that was Kevin. We'll circle back. They don't know Kevin.
Put that in.
But I don't think He can give us a mindset to come up with a problem without coming up with a solution. And so for those who have followed us in this conversation, have hung in there, maybe learned some, maybe open up their aperture, what are some solutions? And I really want us to go here. What are some solutions? Better yet, what are some asks that we will want to cross the aisle? It don't have to be one, two, or several asks that we could say, now that we've begun this conversation, here's what I'm asking you to understand or to do or to whatever that looks like based on our lens. And I want it to be, Greg, to us, and I want it us, Frankie, to be to Greg, if that makes sense, right? What is the ask that we can ask from these two communities that finally sat down and said, hey, let's break bread and talk, now that we kind of talked about these different variables? And
would the breeders like to go first, or would you like me to go first?
You go first. You go first.
Okay. All right. Because breeders come quick. So,
you're
in there for a mission. You're in there for a mission. For y'all, it's a sprint. For me, it's a marathon. I think for me, the ask has always been, and I can remember, Jay, when you reached out to me for this, and when you, Carlos, Frankie, and I had the conversation, I truly want to understand what the misconceptions are that when you all are having your barbershop talk or your cigar lounge talks or your, road trip talks or whatever, what are the misconceptions that you all have? And I feel like it's an interesting dynamic because, once again, as we've said before, the three of us, we've known each other for a long time. I'm not someone, and you all are not people that we're not meeting for the first time. And so we've been in our 20s and our 30s, and it's taken us being in our, Frank, I don't know how old you are, but like late 30s to mid 40s to finally have this conversation. And what has stopped us from having that conversation before? Because we have seen on the yard so many times. And all I can imagine is, and not putting this on y'all because I don't believe this, but right, wrong, or indifferent, just like you all have had this perception of me, I've had this perception of y'all, but we've never talked about it.
Yeah.
And we didn't even talk about it today. But I don't think we need to, but it's one of those things where understanding where you all are coming from in the dynamic. So then I can go back to my friends and be like, okay, well, y'all think this is what it is, but this really ain't what it is.
So two things come to my mind, and I want to make sure that if I ask for the question, that I give an answer. I think, and what I'll try to give one polarizing one for each side. I think on one end, as heterosexual men, I always say pride and ego is one of the things that we feel first and we learn second. And that's dangerous because we feel it and we act on it, but we don't understand it. And so we go out in this world and we make everything based on this feeling instead of understanding, right? And I always say, I have a poem that says, understand something you've never been a part of. And I think that's facts, right? Let Paula start talking about flying a plane. I don't understand. I'm ignorant. I do not know that. So I think on some part of it is intentional stupidity. Now, pride and ego from a heterosexual, kind of like you said, that entitlement, right? If you're not like me, look like me, believe like me, think like me, something's wrong with you. But I think on the other end of the pendulum, some of it just not having the accurate education, right? And because we live in a world where even asking a question can sometimes come across as disrespect, I can speak for myself. Sometimes I just call it out of confidence, just say, look, I'm just going to keep it moving. I'm going to make sure I respect that person as long as we don't cross that line. And so it's easier for me to say, okay, now I'll just monitor it until the right time. And to your point, I felt like, okay, we're a little bit more adults and whatnot. And like I said, when I saw your pitch, I was like, I think we're in a space where we can start that dialogue, right? But I think those are the two, Greg, if I can answer that too. I think from a negative standpoint, it's that ego and pride to where we want to label everything like us and we want to demean everything that doesn't look like us. But I can say there's a lot of us in the heterosexual community as men and Black men that it is a fine line to open up our mouths and have that conversation. Now, like you said, because we've known each other for 20 years. But if I walked up to a member of your community on the outside, I wouldn't know where to start. Not because I don't know what I want to ask. Damn, it's 2024. I want to come across like insensitive, right? So where we throw around.
Come off the rude, yeah.
I would like to lean to UKP being more in that group, but we also consider and say we understand there's just some ignorance out there, right? If it doesn't look like me, walk like me, talk like me, it got to be you, not me. But that's a conversation for another day. But I do encourage heterosexual men who are listening to this, tap into that pride and ego, not just as a feeling and it's there or a badge that makes you a quote unquote man, but what makes you more of a man is how to use it with everyone without slighting or hating or demeaning others. So I hope that kind of gave you just a little bit to go back and have a conversation, man. But at the end of the day, one of the things I'm big on is respect, and I believe respect can only be crossed if there is an intentional act, So yeah, that's I hope that answers your question, Frankie, man. Same question towards you, man, and we'll get out of here. What is one ask that you feel? And I know Greg doesn't represent the whole LGBT community, but if we were talking to that community, what is one ask that you would want them to understand about us as a heterosexual society or community? What do you think is something that maybe they did wrong or something you want them to know about this or clarify?
I'm leading in because I would love to hear this.
Man, I think I'm all over the place on this one, man. It's like certain heterosexual men ideologies, I would probably have to say, because it's a lot of heterosexual men that I want to say aren't afraid of, or aren't scared of these conversations. It's just they don't believe in, like, say, the how can you say it? Like, I guess
Hey, just say it, bro.
the
Say
the
it.
mental aspect. Like you see these interviews with Boosie, with Lil Boosie, and like, man, you can't, and he'll be like, man, I ain't got nothing against the gays, but you can't tell me that at this age, this kid automatically knows he's gay, and this, and I think those type of hard conversations are what we all need to get out of this, because it's it's dealing with kids now, and it's hard for a straight male, a heterosexual male, to believe that like their son or their kid is actually thinking like this at what, 7 or 8. You know, I think that's one of the things we need to deal with. You know, and it's, man, shoot, even just talking about it's hard, because I have boys. It's hard trying to come to terms with stuff like that. You know, because in all honesty, do you want your son to be gay? No. But am I gonna disown my kids, or am I gonna, throw a hissy fit? No, because that, at the end of the day, they mine. They still mine. You know what I'm saying? So I
And
think that's one of the biggest takeaways that both heterosexual and homosexual men need to get. Go ahead, Greg.
Yeah. And if I may interject, and I know James, you said something, like a lot of that resonates with me because, and it's a rhetorical question, but however, as two heterosexual men, at what age did you know that you liked girls? And know, there's no difference between you knowing that you like girls.
Girls, yeah.
At 7, 8 years old. When I was 7, 8 years old, I knew I liked boys. However, the difference was it was ostracized and admonished and vitriolic for me, where it was normal for you all as heterosexual boys. Yeah. And so it was further suppressed. And the second point that I'll make, and I'll retire, is, my father told me he knew when Zach and I were like 8 years old that we were gay. Parents know. Mm-hmm. Y'all know. Man. And I can remember talking to a high school friend of mine, and he's got a son and he's got a stepson because like he's got married, and he would have this conversation with us because like he's like a full-blood heterosexual man. He was like, I don't know how I would feel because he feels like his stepson is gay. And I can remember when Zach and I first came out to our parents, and my father told us he knew that we were gay. And he said, I just don't understand why parents can't love their kids.
That's it.
You just got to love your kids. You got to love your kids because they're yours. Like Frankie, you just said, you just got to love your kids. And so I don't know how many, and I'm saying this tongue in cheek, but I'm also being serious with it. How many times have y'all had to come out and tell somebody you were heterosexual versus how many times I've had to come out and tell somebody I'm homosexual?
Yeah.
Every time I tell somebody that, every time I tell Frankie, every time I tell James, every time I tell Carlos, every time I tell Joe Schmo, I'm coming out for the first time over and over and over and over.
And over again.
And I don't know how you all are going to react to that. Whereas when Frankie or James or Carlos, you all don't have to have that coming out conversation.
No.
Yeah.
No.
And I think we also
that's powerful right there, bro. Yeah.
Greg, I greatly appreciate that transparency. And one thing came that we also have to recognize as heterosexual men, what question and topic are we really having? Because oftentimes people are not asking us about our belief. And I think there are certain appropriate conversations to have if that's the topic. But if it's about understanding another person, it's not about our beliefs, right? Even within our children, we would want and hope our children to grow, of course, believing in what we believe, because it seemed to work for us, but there are no guarantees. And so I will say this unequivocally. If James did decide to live a lifestyle of a homosexual guy, the fact that he's my son, I'm going to love him unequivocally. It will not be the first time or the last time that you have expectation of on any cause. And that's why I say we have to make sure, and I think we do need to have another conversation, because I think a lot of times, watch this, y'all. I'm trying to end this thing, but we just hear them. We default on our values when it's time to defend how we feel, but we go in and convict when it comes about someone else's emotions. Well, we can't do that, right? We got to pick which one of those conversations. Hey, this is my conviction. This is how I feel. But guess who also has that right? Greg.
Yeah.
And whoever else is in the community.
It's almost like you forget Greg's emotions because you're so concerned about yours. Right. Your ideology of what you thought Greg was going to be. You know,
there's so much nuance and context in there because, again, how many of our children do we shun because they don't believe the same religion we believe? See, I'm trying to, again, normalize. It's not just this topic. Yeah. So while we make it so special, it's like we hurt children and then they grow up to be hurt adults because we have the same concept. If it's not how I see it, you must be wrong. That's the beautiful thing about being a human, right? Humans get to choose, right? That's check is one judge, right? If you believe that way. So to me, I want to make sure we as heterosexual men don't dominate the space of having this conversation by justifying that's my belief. Mm-hmm. Oh, Greg don't believe in it? Oh, I'm gonna beat him. No. Yep. The whole premise, Greg, let me hear about you. Hey, let me tell you about me. Hey, we're similar. And if Greg wants to have the conversation about my beliefs, then we'll have that conversation. But we can't just make it automatic this curtain that we just kind of throwing Greg behind this curtain. And we tell him when to peep out and when not to peep out, you know? And so when we go into that context dealing with children, it's their children, right? Like, I've never heard us have a problem. Watch this with white folks. Shut up, Siri. Hey, don't teach your kid to be racist. We've never intentionally, like, so I could go on and on, man, but I'm just like, something we just have to admit and create a space and say it's not about us. I can't make it about me when I said I genuinely want to learn Greg. And I want to make sure that this conversation, ongoing conversations, are just that, right? We learn a lot more. But I do think, and Greg, again, hopefully you take this to your community, that's something that I think I will be more mindful of. And I hope that the listeners of this is not have your belief system unequivocally. No one's trying to change that. But I think to understand each other better so we can exist better, we should not throw that in the fire of that's challenging my belief and act like it's this thing that's going to infect me. Because I can only imagine, especially when you're talking about kids, like who would want to be a part of that conversation? I thought about when you said when you came on the yard, who would really want to be around someone who treats them like that, and you don't even take that same energy to get to know me, right? Look, man, this has been a great.
Like all I do is be fraternal. Like that's it.
Yeah, that's a whole nother piece. Like I think it's big of me, and I say this all the time. When you can live a lifestyle but endear yourself out of respect, even when I don't look for it, because I be you. But I can say with you, and I'm gonna say this, and we'll wrap it up. That's the thing that made me realize it. It wasn't your lifestyle because I don't care, right? You Greg, you like that's how I looked at it.
That's what.
But when I saw you endear yourself, and I'm gonna say this, I'm not saying you were trying to be fake or whatnot, but I saw you try to at least be in a decorum of a frat brother. And you didn't have to do that. As a grown man, you didn't have to do that. And so that, if he can do it, and why? Oh, that's why. So what we all now? Like, you have the aha moment, you're like, think, the lights come on, like, no, that's not right, bro. You know what I mean? Like,
it shouldn't be no. If he can do it, shouldn't be no issue.
But nobody should even have to show up and even. It's fucking excuse me, friend. It's homecoming, bro.
Coming.
Like,
nah, shit, you good?
Another frat gonna go. That's it. You know what I'm saying? Ain't no disrespect. Ain't no others. That's all it should be. But I think sometimes we as heterosexual men, again, we don't realize the disrespect of how we just assume that our disrespect won't affect anyone. Could you imagine walking in the room and someone just start whispering about you? That could be weird, not anything, but that's gonna make you feel a certain way. And y'all know how to y'all
walk in a room full of women and they start whispering about y'all.
And
they don't even know you. Oh, but I used to fuck a nigga that used to look like Frankie, and I fucked a nigga that remind me of Frankie personality. He said something, They don't know shit about you.
God damn. Went left quick. Went left quick. What 50 say? What do you say for me for?
See, why my name into it? Why I'm about into it?
Yeah, that's that human element we forget about. Man, look, this has been a great one. Greg, I appreciate your time.
Appreciate you, Greg. Appreciate you.
Appreciate y'all, man, brothers.
I appreciate this candid conversation, man. I appreciate your knowledge and allowing us to go on the other side and kind of learn, man. This has been a learning experience for me, right? And I think to publicly be able to allow us to peer into a life that we know nothing about, we do assume, and even with this information, we don't know everything. I greatly appreciate your tenacity, your openness for that. I am hoping that our audience received it in that same manner. Frank, I appreciate you joining in this conversation and providing that balance also of normalizing the conversation, right? Not having these conversations from a preconceived heterosexual mind frame and try to pull, Greg into understanding over here, but just having a conversation as men, and we arrived at a parts of the conversation where our differences are. We were able to explore them and learn them, and then know this audience. Hey, you got the same beliefs, Frank, at the beginning of the podcast? Yeah. Greg, you have the same belief. I know I got the same belief. Wasn't nobody hurt, injured? Greg didn't get on me, no stain.
It was funny. On Frank. Like, this shit was funny as fuck. Like,
man, I say that sarcastically.
Three old college friends just talking, man.
Exactly. Now, of course, we do have the bias that we've known each other for like 20 years.
Yeah, that.
Right. So yeah, man, I appreciate having this conversation, man. We'll definitely spin around and try to have this conversation again. Greg, I know you do get busy. You got some traveling coming up. But hey, man, I want to have the conversation, maybe a part 2 later. So, even if there are people in your community that want to join us.
I'm glad you said that, because you know what? Zach said that he would love to be a part of this conversation.
Tell Zach to come on, man.
Most deaf. Most deaf.
So having twins who are both queer with terminal degrees and Greek, and y'all went to school with them too? Wow.
Yeah. And like I said, hopefully people in our audience will join the conversation. I will say, and I will say this right now, we do not tolerate any disrespect. We are unfiltered. You can have your opinion, but we definitely have a clear line when it comes to disrespect. And so that is not done. Join the conversation. You don't have to agree. You can disagree. Challenge us.
Voting for Donald Trump, I might be disrespectful.
That's disrespectful toward me. You're right. That's 40. I don't even say the name. That's 45. Yeah, and then that's disrespectful.
Blasphemous.
I'm gonna put it out there now. You might not have me back, but if you're telling me you're voting for the Cheeto, I'm out.
Now I'm gonna pull out my religion. Hey, now I'm gonna pull out my religious belief.
Can't make America great again.
nigga, no, America was never great. It was never great. That's why we're here. Because America wasn't great because we're here.
Greg, you know that 20-year span friendship you talked about? Frank almost risked it all.
Out the window.
Out
the
window. You know what I mean?
You know what, Frank? Be out to be talked about. You gonna be talked about.
God damn.
Hey, and I'm on the second floor of my house, so that was gonna take a little.
That's gonna hurt. Yeah, that's gonna hurt a rib or something.
Look, you guys, we have kept you guys 2 hours, man. Thank you for hanging there with us, man. Thank you for joining the conversation. If you have any thoughts, any comments, like I said, even if you agree to disagree, leave them below. This will be up on YouTube. You will have clips on our Facebook page, Unfiltered Kings Podcast. We want to hear from you. We want to keep this conversation going, right? So we thank you guys for joining in. I thank my co-host, Frankie. Then I also want to thank my beloved frat brother, Dr. Greg Shirley, for tuning in, taking his time in. Man, congratulations in everything that you do, you have coming up. And like I said, you'll definitely continue to be in our prayers that you continue to make your adjustments from your loss. And of course, you know, everything that I say to you go to your twin, man. But until then, this has been Unfiltered Kings Podcast, where men and women talk to each other, not at each other. You guys have a great night, and thank you for joining in.